What are your thoughts on the situations in Ukraine and how it has escalated into war?
In the beginning, I was kind of worried for major war, like before. But now, since I've heard they were pulling out, I'm not too worried.
Well, I think it was unreasonable on Putin's part by starting this whole entire war in Ukraine.
I feel like it's really bad because Russia should not be bombing civilians, such as hospitals and orphanages and stuff like that. So they're basically just killing innocent civilians, which is extremely wrong and basically a war crime. So
I think it's very devastating, and there's a lot of innocents getting killed.
I think that, the situation in Ukraine is pretty bad, and I think that, how it led to war is kind of just like a buildup of events that kind of happened over there. I don't really know too much, but I think it's just sort of built up over time and got to that point.
So when you first heard about the situation, did you think it was going to lead to something much bigger?
Yeah, I think it still has time to lead up to something bigger. It's still growing right now, I think. So I haven't really heard anything, but I kind of think it'll get bigger over time and escalate.
So what are your thoughts on Ukraine and how it's escalated into war?
My thoughts are that I feel really sorry for the people that live there because they're very peaceful people and they are not looking for a war. And I think that it's going to influence how everything moves forward from this point on.
And when the war in Ukraine first broke out, were you worried that it would turn into a bigger thing?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I don't think there's any way that we wouldn't be worried that it will turn into a bigger thing.
And how are you staying updated on the situation in Ukraine?
Stuff like Twitter and the news stations, pretty much.
Usually it's on Snapchat or Instagram.
TikTok.
It's usually on the news, but I don't really watch the news, so.
In my BOCES class, we watch HLN every Monday, so that's pretty much my source of information for that.
Well, the media, obviously, but the media.
Like TikTok, Snapchat.
The news.
The news.
Probably TikTok and the news. I don't really watch the news a lot though.
Well, my family is Ukrainian, so I've always been very knowledgeable about or interested in what's going on over there. So I saw it as soon as probably everybody else saw it when it came out on the news. But Putin's been trying to take Ukraine for a long time. So.
And has it affected you or your family personally?
Not personally, I wouldn't say, but it did get a lot of my family riled up in the beginning.
Okay, well, thank you for letting us borrow you. And, yeah. Has it affected you or your family personally?
Not at all. Other than conversations at the dinner table, maybe, but that's about it. So.
All right, well, thank you for your time.
It hasn't affected any of us.
Thank you for your time. The situation has not affected me and my family personally, but as far as I know people that are in there in Ukraine, I've known a couple, and they don't know if they're going to live or not, like, to the next day. So that's just something really devastating that's, like, on my mind a lot.
I'm really sorry to hear that, but thank you for your time.
Not much. We just decided that it's not our fight, so we don't put much time into it.
Okay, thank you for your time.
No.
Thank you.
We still have relatives in Ukraine, so I would say it very much directly affected my family. We're not sure where they are or what happened to them currently, but we do have family over there. So it's been a pretty big thing for my family.
Okay. I'm sorry for you, but thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Welcome to AVP, Audiovisual Production.
There's a lot you learn in this class, but most of the fun comes from your creativity. Every day starts the same with our daily check-in with Mr. Nadell, where we just talk about our day. Sometimes check-ins can be really funny. People get pretty animated.
Projects aren't hard. Most of the time he gives us projects on stuff we learned so we understand the material, and get familiar with the lumixes. They're super high quality, same with our broadcast equipment. We've got this red camera, and I just remember the first time I saw it, I would not stop mentioning it to my family. Did you know AVP has a red camera?
We get our own booth where we do all our editing. We use softwares like Adobe Audition, Adobe Premiere, GarageBand, the works.
We do a broadcast every other week. It's a little stressful, but it taught us to work as a team, I think. You're really like a family in here. You watch people grow. Everyone in this class is so different, but with what we do, we really learn to get along and branch out. And we do things we never thought we'd do.
You are always excited for the next project and the next broadcast.
Out of the options that I had, it was either this or graphics in the end, so I've always had a passion for movies and cinematography and all that, so other than that, I just really felt like I would have fun here, so that was the choice.
Both seasons is good. I really enjoy it. It gives me a lot of time off from actual classes at school to just come here, relax, do what I like to do, and then just go about on my day. So I really like it. It's great.
I would like to accomplish being able to run my own podcast and being able to edit videos very smoothly without any rough cuts or any bad edits.
I haven't been in AVP too long, but if I had to pick one word to describe the class, it would be informative.
Engaging. So much fun.
It's been almost 2 awful months since the invasion of Ukraine began by the likes of the ruthless Russian President Vladimir Putin. Since then, Russia has scored very little in way of official victories. However, the price of war continues to loom large over the country of Ukraine, as buildings including hospitals, schools, and more have been targeted by the onslaught of Putin's regime. However, since then, it's been clear that the people of Ukraine are nothing if not one thing: resilient. In the face of seemingly impossible odds, Ukraine's President Zelensky has become an international hero. It is abundantly clear that he is gaining inspiration from the people of Ukraine, who have risen to every occasion to fight for their culture, livelihood, identity, and freedom at every turn. This week, we sat down with Mrs. Christine Serbun, a first-generation American whose mother was a World War II refugee and father, a first-generation Ukrainian who came over to the United States in 1910. While also having family members in areas of Ukraine in which are under siege. Mrs. Serbun, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so we're going to jump in with our first question. Walk me through when you first found out about the situation in Ukraine. What were your feelings? Were they similar to when Russia invaded Crimea in 2014?
With reference to Crimea 2014, I would have to say that watching that happen was scary in the sense that there had been quite a peaceful existence for almost 30 years prior to that, from the time that Ukraine was liberated in 1991, 92. It scared me in the sense that the Russians were taking a little piece, and that leads to almost a test. Oh,
Yeah.
what can I get away with? So that kind of led me to believe that there would be potentially more. But seeing the troops and the military equipment and what was amassed on the borders of Ukraine, even prior to that, as Ukraine said, we're not worried about it. We don't think they're going to invade. In my own rational brain, I could not understand why you would put those kind of troops there for any reason other than. I can compare my reaction to the actual invasion to what it felt like to survive 9/11, in the sense that most people, when I talk to them who remember that event, can tell you exactly where they were, exactly what happened when they heard it. It's the same thing with this. When the actual move was made, I kind of slumped back in the chair and said, "Dear God, it's going to happen." So
sure.
that was very, very difficult.
Yeah, for sure. And like with your reference to 9/11, where were you when you heard about the current invasion of Ukraine?
I was at home watching CNN because there had been a lot of talking about it. But when they started to talk about actual crossings of borders, and I sat there in the chair, and I can't tell you for how many hours I sat there and watched CNN, which that's traumatic enough, but to watch what was actually happening, for them to keep giving reports about, military movement, I didn't move for a long time after that, trying to hear and learn as much as I could.
For sure, for sure. Tell me about your family in Ukraine. Are you in touch with them at all?
Let me just back you up a little bit so you can understand my relationship to my family in Ukraine. My mother was born in a small town in the region of Stry, which is southwest of Lviv. So my family, first of all, is in what I would consider to be a safer zone in Ukraine. When my mother's village was bombed in World War II by the Germans, she was injured and her sister were injured. They were evacuated by Germans to a hospital. They wound up in refugee camps. They wound up in displaced persons camps in Germany, and ultimately were sponsored to come to the United States in 1948. I gave Allie two pictures because one is of my mother when she was in Germany, and the other one is of my mother when she came to the United States, because I want you to understand she was 13 years old when her village was bombed.
Yeah.
And what happened with my mother and my aunt was they were ultimately wound up in the United States. They did not know their family was still alive. They didn't know their parents and three sisters were still alive. They didn't find that out until quite by some freak accident, which someday I can, if you want to interview me again, I'll tell you that story. But they realized they were alive. So it wasn't until 20 years later that my mother saw her parents again. At that point, they were in their 70s. My mother's in her 40s. So those three sisters are in Ukraine. The family that I have left there are the children and the grandchildren to those three sisters. And there are lots.
Yeah.
The one connection I have to that's a direct line to those in Ukraine is a nephew, or is a cousin of mine who's in Vienna, who has told me that the family is safe in Lviv, the last I heard, which was about a week ago, and that they don't intend to leave. And his mother is 78 years old or so, and he's got a sister there who's probably about 49, 50, something like that. So they're not going anywhere.
For sure. You said you're in touch with local Ukrainian communities. What kinds of support are they receiving from not only here, from around the world?
I have to tell you that what I experienced as far as how quickly people mobilized, how fast things were happening. There are organizations, the Ukrainian Congress Committee, the local churches, the parishes, there are youth organizations, there are Ukrainian national homes, which are cultural centers. Everybody mobilized. Everybody said, what do we do? How do we help? I have been absolutely astonished by the financial support, the medical supplies, the clothing, the food. it really was. And to see, I will tell you this, the sense of pride that comes from seeing Ukrainian flags on the homes of people who aren't Ukrainian, that's something.
Oh, for sure. I know there's Ukrainian flags all over, like even our town here in New York, but I'm sure everywhere around the States and everywhere around the world. As you are in touch with the local Ukrainian community, can you give me any examples of the pride and resilience demonstrated over these past couple of weeks?
Pride is, the pride that has been exhibited is goes without saying. To sit here and know how incredibly determined and committed the individuals in that country are, just for me being Ukrainian, is something. But to have like the mayor of Syracuse who raised a Ukrainian flag in front of the city hall, to have different organizations and churches that are not affiliated with Ukrainians coming to the aid, that's the part that's amazing, the support. As far as resilience go, we'll see how that goes. I think that's a long-term thing. Just how do we come back from this? Let's say when it's over, what do we then do to help?
For sure. As you do take pride in like the bravery being shown by the people in your father's home country, do you think that the war will enter a stalemate with the amount of people fighting over in Ukraine? Or do you think it will progress any differently?
I wish I had a crystal ball. I wish I could tell you. But to be very frank with you, Putin's pride is what's going to drive the end of this war. Whether or not he can rein it in enough to make some type of sensible decision, or whether his desire to win is all that matters at any cost. Because I keep asking myself, you're decimating this country, you are destroying its cities. What will be left when you are done? The millions who have left, the millions of those that have been killed, what will be left? What is the objective here? And I truly do believe that he had dreams of, and I have read articles to the effect that he had dreams of marching into Ukraine and being welcomed with bouquets of flowers. He had military units who came with their dress uniforms aboard those trucks that they were coming into Kyiv, because they intended to do a formal parade once they took control. I don't think it'll be a stalemate. My fear right now is with the withdrawal that we're seeing and where they're pulling back from places like Kyiv, that all they're going to do is amass more military in whatever form that takes, and then be just more focused on individual geographic areas.
With that being said, how do you think other people in the United States' opinion may differ from yours as a Ukrainian?
Well, as with all things, there's so many people who might not be able to see the same sides of it. The amount of money that we're sending there, the risk that we're taking in supporting Ukraine, and the possibility of a warfare escalating to involve the United States. There are those individuals who have that attitude. And I honestly do not know how anyone can sit back and watch even a few minutes of the video that comes and the photographs that come from that country, and not say you can't. It's genocide. It is now proven it's genocide. He's literally trying to annihilate the population of that country, no matter whom. I don't know how anybody could say, might be able to say, we're just going to sit back and do nothing.
Yeah, for sure. With all of these people, with the mass genocide, like you said, the President Zelensky from Ukraine is fighting alongside troops. Do you think this is a powerful message or a risk factor for the people of Ukraine?
Well, let me put it to you this way. When as you grow through life and go through life and start to work at jobs, you will find that those jobs which you are most committed to are those where the leadership is just as committed. You are not going to work as hard for the boss who leaves early every day as you will for the boss who's going to come into your office and ask you how it's going and see what he can do to help. I truly have to be honest. When Zelensky was elected, I kind of did one of these, like, what are you doing? He's a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
And the man has proven to be an incredible leader. I think he will go down in history as someone, as a hero. And I truly believe that had he left the country and tried to get out, that there is no way that we would have had as much success as we have had in fighting off the Russians. I truly believe that with my heart. He is the catalyst to make things, to move us towards some kind of victory in whatever shape that takes.
For sure. I have one final question for you. Would you recommend any groups or organizations that could provide viewers with the opportunities to support the Ukrainian people? Anything that viewers at home could do to help the people in Ukraine?
You know, that's a really good question. What I have found is that when the local community decided they were going to donate, that the amount and volume was literally staggering. The Ukrainian National Home locally, the cultural center, started collecting. I was there the first day. I'm brought. A few days later, someone asked me to deliver something else. Within less than 48 hours, the room that they had, which was like 1,000 square feet, you couldn't move in it. The girl who was coordinating it said, we have to find more trucks. I need a warehouse. We don't know how we're going to pay for the shipping over there. So all of the materials, whatever that form that is, whether it's food or medical supplies, those are good things, but those create a handling issue, a shipping issue. Truly, the best thing you can do is to send money. But your point to what organizations, that's a good question. I think what you need to do is some background checking on some of these organizations before you donate. I can send to Allie an email with a couple of connections online to the Ukrainian Congress Committee. The Archbishop of Philadelphia is someone I grew up with. I know him. I know that they are collecting. And there's also an article that was in the Atlantic that talked about donating, and it too had some links to some very reputable organizations. But I stress again that, you know, they don't need clothes there because they can get clothes from countries within Europe. By donating clothes, it creates a logistical issue of moving it there. So I would suggest that donate whatever you can. Every little dollar will help.
Okay. We appreciate your interview today with us. The invasion of Ukraine may not have slowed, but it's become increasingly clear that the will of the Ukrainian people will not be slowed nor broken. To those in Ukraine, the world is watching and with you. This has been Up for Debate. We hope to see you next time.
There's so much that goes into being a chef, more than just cooking and producing a dish. It's about everything that happens in the kitchen, from start to finish, from cleanup to end, to customers, to the products that you work with. So there isn't one specific answer. Anyone can call themselves a chef, but it really depends on where you are, what you're doing, and the area that you're in. I love working here. As you can see, they redid the dining room for me, so it has a restaurant feel. I've always been in the restaurant business my whole life, and I love working in the industry.
Welcome back for Up for Debate. I'm Malachi, and this is Elena. We're going to be talking about how the Ukraine crisis is affecting the economy. Like, for example, in the website Foreign Policy, it is reported that Ukraine's economy shrunk 16% in the first quarter of this year. It can possibly go down to 40, and they now have to rely on outside aid. That has to suck because they can't, like, farm or anything. They're focused on trying to stay alive.
Currently, the gas prices, especially things like gas and oil and like wheat and metal and stuff like that, are currently really going up. And you know, the price of gas goes up, everything else is going to go up with it. Like, you know, like truck drivers need like oil and all that, and gas prices are just going to keep rising. I know that personally, we've gone up, I believe, to about, I think it's $4 per gallon of gas now, and some places have even already gone up to like $4.29. And I mean, some places have a much higher amount, and that's like their normal. So we just finished our interview. So what exactly did you think about that? What all did you get from it?
Well, see, I think it was very nice, very informative. It's not every day you get a actual decent site of source. You know, usually everyone says, oh, I learned it from social media, or oh, I learned it from Twitter.com, and you know, it's just nice to have a nice topic conversation with someone of sight.
Yeah, most people, like in our public opinions especially, you see everybody tell that they got their information from like TikTok, or they get it from Facebook, or they get it from the news, or you know, like research, or you know, you find it on Google. I know there's headlines everywhere right now. And I mean, you see all this information and all these like, you know, facts and stuff like online or from other people telling you about it. But you never really, it's really rare to see somebody who actually has like a direct line to Ukraine talk about like their own personal experiences with their family, and to hear, you know, their family's experiences coming from being actually there. And I think that it's definitely really great and really informative to have a direct line and to be able to sit down and have an actual conversation with somebody who's like, you know, like directly affected by it.
Yeah.
Because even like the news and all that doesn't cover everything that's going on. I mean, there's so much that you still don't see or you don't know. You know, you hear that, oh, you know, so-and-so did this, like Russia currently did this, or Ukraine did this today, but you don't really hear like personal experiences from the people that are there right now dealing with the situation.
Yeah, they like cherry pick it, and that kind of sucks.
They only cherry pick facts, for sure.
Like, Forbes.com stated that companies like McDonald's and PepsiCo's actually getting affected by all this, and it's like, okay, what
like,
about other people?
Yeah, what about the people that are dealing with it every day? And I mean, she even referenced, she went into detail of like things that her family's endured before, like being from there, and it's really interesting, like in this time in history, especially with so much happening and, you know, just everything happening all at once, to actually have like, you know, facts about like stuff that's happened in the past too, like that's led up to what's going on right now. I think that it's really interesting, and I think that we definitely need personal stories and experiences to get grasp more of an idea, because I mean, even hearing from other people, it's like you can't get the full experience unless you're there, and I think that it's definitely a necessity.
Yeah.
I think that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us. A little PS, a public service announcement. This will be our last broadcast for a while, as our building is currently under construction, but we thank you so much for all the time that you've spent with us and sitting and watching our interviews and our broadcast before, and we hope that when we come back, you'll continue to join us. Thank you so much. Have a great day.